Smash know that they were the guys that opened up the Chaps Pit Beef place right there behind the Iron Hill Brewery. They're on the highway near Outback and all that. And they opened that several years ago, and they have made some changes, and Chris and Steve have continued on, and they opened up 302 The Local. Wait till you see what they've done with the inside. They went crazy. It looks like an old-time speakeasy, but they have great comfort food and fun food as you'd expect in that kind of place. Southern fried chicken sandwiches, gourmet hot dogs, smash burgers, wings, pretzels, salads, you name it. So that's 302 The Local. They are open. Check it out right out there on the highway. But an organization came in from the delightful Berlin, Maryland, which I know my buddy Al Reno tells me it has been voted the coolest town in the country, and it really is. They've got some great restaurants there, and those of you that asked me where Justine Zegna went, she had a restaurant in Wilmington Avenue, right down in downtown Rehoboth. She has her restaurant, Blacksmith, out there now. But another organization out there called 410 Social, get it? 410 Milton, not Milton, Berlin, Maryland. There you go. They came into town and took over the old Cooter Brown's space. The old Cooter Brown space, and it's the second floor of First Street Station, right there at First Street and Rehoboth Avenue. Amazing views, and I'm going to get these people on the Beach Eats show. It's just they're so busy getting the place started and working with their help and getting things put together. So I'm kind of leaving them alone until they get a moment to breathe. But that is 302 Social. 302 Social. And it's an interesting concept, and they're very nice people there. So you may want to check that out. It's kind of an interesting thing, and it's just it's what you would expect in downtown Rehoboth at a place. Cooter Brown's had kind of a similar concept. It was a bourbon kind of thing, and it made a lot of difference for a lot of people. It was a lot of fun. Another thing that I get a lot of emails and things about, and again, you can check this all out at rehobothfoodie.com on your computer. The website has been around for a long time, and I try to keep as up to date as I can. Gio's Pizza, and people go, Gio's Pizza, what the heck is that? Well, do you remember Casa de Leo? Casa de Leo, right in that strip center that is right near Conch Island. The Rock and Roll Club / restaurant, they moved from 2nd Street downtown just a few blocks west, where there's tons of free parking. That was something they never had downtown, was parking. Now there's free parking right up in that strip center there across from the Point Bakery, and of course, as I said, they are right there. The new Gio's Pizza is Johnny DeLeo handed over the reins. Finally, his man has been around for a long time. He is an icon in our restaurant business here in town. And he finally said, enough already. It's a terrible business. I described the restaurant business as relentless. It is relentless. I owned restaurants before I actually came here. It was my midlife crisis, several restaurants, and I had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot doing it, which is one of the reasons why I can talk to you now about it. But it is just, it's mostly pizza, but they do have an Italian bent in there. They have an Italian menu, and they're calling it Gio's. And from what I know, it is one of Johnny DeLeo's relatives moved in and relieved him of the craziness that he has subjected himself to many years. Another place that has been the source of a lot of craziness, especially on RehobothFoodie.com, was, you might remember, Preshy's in the Midway Shopping Center. Frankly, I was not a fan. I got a lot of information from there and all that sort of thing, but he finally gave up the ghost also. And another place has moved in there, totally unrelated to them, and it's called the Midway Cafe. And it's in the Preshy spot there in Midway Center, right a few doors down from 1776, and a around the corner from a new restaurant that's going to be opening in the old Shrimpy space. And it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the moment. We'll see how long they want to do that. A lot of people start out excited and they realize 3 shifts, it's hard to do. But we'll see. At the moment, they're open from 7 to 9 every day except Sunday. And on Sundays, they're 7 to 3. The menu is kind of a Mediterranean, kind of Greek feel. If you go in there, some of the things have a little bit of a Greek accent. There's going to be some hummus. There's going to be some gyro meat and things like that. But their breakfasts are supposedly very, very, very tasty, and people enjoy it quite a bit. You can check them out and check out their menu or do whatever by calling them at 302-645-8300. Again, these are not commercials for these places. They don't sponsor my show or anything, but my job is to tell you about local eating, and that's what I do. So today's show starts at 2. My show starts at 2, Beach Eats, and we'll be talking to Debbie Marchese, as I mentioned, from Kilwins in downtown Rehoboth Beach, and behind-the-scenes peek at the Toast Company, which is very, very influential pretty much everywhere. I do a lot of traveling now. A lot of you know that I do a lot of traveling. I have a little place where I go hide sometimes down in Charleston, South Carolina, and it is not unusual at all to have your server come up and say to you, you know what, here's your order, and they enter it into a little handheld device. It shoots it to the kitchen, and it's an amazing system because the server doesn't have to take time while you wait for your food. You don't have to take time to do all that and walk all the way across the restaurant to a terminal. And when the food is ready, the system tells them electronically. There's no ringing bells like we used to see in restaurants. And so anyway, we're going to talk about that at the 3 o'clock hour. So that's going to be a very interesting thing. This guy Kevin Sweet, he is the big boss, and the big boss locally in terms of repping the system, selling it to restaurants. And so we'll check it out. Toast. Just last week, we are sorry to say, was the last officially scheduled paella feast at Cafe Azafran in downtown Rehoboth. What an amazing, amazing event. I'm telling you, you've got to check it out. In the summer, he does it every Wednesday. It's reservations only. It is the best deal in town. It's like I think it's $39 or something. And you get a salad, you get a side, and then he makes paella fresh, literally right before your eyes. Wait till you see this paella pan. People have mistaken it for a satellite dish. It is that big. And he puts, just to tell you how much he makes, he puts over $100 worth of saffron in there, which of course, by the way, is azafran, is Spanish for saffron. And so you would figure that he would do that. Chef Richard Steele is the guy who does it, and we love what he does here in town. Cafe Azafran's been around for a long time. But even though the regularly scheduled paella feasts are not happening anymore, the last one was actually last Wednesday, there will be pop-up paella feasts. Say that 10 times. Pop-up paella feast in the quiet season. So keep an eye on Cafe Azafran's Facebook page, on their website, and all that sort of thing. This is truly a traditional Rehoboth Beach event. Chef Richard creates the paella from scratch. He literally starts when you're sitting there having your salad. You can see the oil just glimmering in front of your face. And he puts in all kinds of delicious, delicious goodies, shrimp and chicken and andouille sausage, sometimes even calamari. It depends on what he can get absolutely fresh off the boats. So you'll want to check that out too. Cafe Azafran, they're on the Ocean Block of Baltimore Avenue. I call it Party Central. I call it the Party Walk. You've got DeFebo's there. You've got, of course, Eden right across the street. You've got these new places, so you're going to love it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun sitting with you just for an hour, hanging out. This is the Rehoboth Foodie. I will be back at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock to talk to you more about food after the wonderful show, Tipping the Scales of Justice. Thank you so much for hanging in with me. I'll see you in a couple of hours. Don't leave us. This is WGMD 92.7 and 98.5, and we're the talk of Delmarva.
92.7 WGMD Rehoboth Beach and 98.5 WUSX Seaford. The talk of Delmarva.
A pledge to fix the economy. I'm Deborah Valentine, Fox News. Former President Trump holding a campaign rally in Las Vegas Friday. The latest campaign stop in the Southwest after holding a news conference in Rancho Palos Verdes, California, earlier in the day. The former president promises to address the economy.
We will defeat inflation quickly, and we will make America affordable again.
Vice President Kamala Harris, meanwhile, and Democrats claim former President Trump's economic policies would give tax breaks to wealthy Americans and raise taxes on the middle class. Meanwhile, the vice president Saturday sat for her first solo interview as nominee with Philadelphia's ABC News affiliate, giving a rambling answer on how she differs from President Biden.
You know, we have ambitions and aspirations and dreams, but not everyone necessarily has access to the resources that can help them fuel those dreams and ambition.
The interview came as the vice president held a rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania last evening. The two NASA astronauts stranded at the International Space Station give their first press conference since their troubled Boeing Starliner capsule returned to Earth without them. Fox's Chanley Painter has the details.
Despite it all, Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore seemed happy and healthy in their first press conference since their problem-plagued space capsule, the Boeing Starliner, returned to Earth without them last week. The NASA astronauts' original 8-day mission, now a more than 8 months long stay at the International Space Station. Both astronauts told reporters they were not comfortable with some issues on their Starliner re-entry vehicle that was brought back to Earth uncrewed by NASA for safety reasons. So while it was tough for them to watch it leave without them, they say they are trained to expect the unexpected.
Williams and Moore are slated to return as a SpaceX rocket in February. America's listening to Fox News.
Another update from your local news source, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD. The talk of Delmarva.
Delaware State University police have arrested a suspect involved in a shots fired incident at the university's off-campus apartments last Saturday evening. I'm Mary Lou in the newsroom for the talk of Delmarva. Police were able to identify those involved through timely investigation and surveillance cameras on campus. University President Tony Allen, in a letter to the student body, which was sent to the talk of Delmarva, says that a student at the university was arrested for that shooting incident and has been expelled. A second suspect will be brought to justice soon. Allen says no one was injured in the shots fired incident. The investigation is ongoing. The Lewis Fire Department has concluded an internal investigation regarding the use of a racial slur over a department radio. The offending member has been found in violation of the department's harassment and diversity policy and has been disciplined. Delaware State Police and local law enforcement, along with the Office of Highway Safety, held their first DUI checkpoint since 2019, a week ago Friday. The checkpoint was held in the Milford area, and officials at the OHS say 340 vehicles went through the checkpoint between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. There were 4 arrests for DUI, 1 wanted person was arrested, and 1 was arrested on drug charges. 5 people were cited for traffic offenses. Delaware's congressional delegation on Friday announced nearly $9 million in funding for the Delaware Coastal Airport in Georgetown, the Delaware Air Park in Dover, and the Wilmington Airport. That funding comes from the FAA's Airport Improvement Program and will help to expand capacity, create jobs, support local and small businesses, and grow Delaware's economy. Delaware Coastal Airport Manager Bob Bryant says that this funding for the Georgetown facility of over $3.4 million will help with the Parallel Taxiway project. You'll find more information at thetalkofdelmarva.com.
WGMD AccuWeather.
Partly sunny skies and breezy through the afternoon with clear skies and a little bit muggy tonight. The low at 66 degrees. For Sunday, starting off with a bit of fog, then partly sunny, breezy, a high 75 to 80. Monday, it'll be windy with intervals of clouds and sun and a high again 75 to 80. I'm Mary Lou from 92.7 and 98.5, the talk of Delmarva.
Reverse mortgage facts. Turn your home's value into cash. Proceeds are tax-free. Never have to make a monthly mortgage payment. Retain ownership of your home. Use reverse mortgage to pay off current mortgages and pay for other financial expenses. Still leave the home to your heirs, and you must be at least 62 years of age. Call Jim Fritz of All-American Mortgage, serving Delaware and Maryland. To find out more, receive a personalized proposal. Call Jim 302-245-2327.
The Car Doctor.
If you're buying a hybrid versus a gas-powered, what's the cost difference? Which one is going to be more of a brick, more reliable, simpler to maintain? Who's going to work on whatever this new vehicle is? You, your local garage, the dealer? Where you're located, is there enough population per se the dealership will be around a while?
The Car Doctor, live Saturday afternoons, 2 to 4 on WGMD's 98.5 and 6 to 8 p.m. on WGMD's 92.7, the talk of Delmarva.
Good afternoon, Delmarva. This is Tipping the Scales of Justice with Julianne Murray. I am live in studio. For those of you that are not familiar with Tipping the Scales of Justice, this is a weekly show on Saturdays between 12 and 2 that is hosted by yours truly. I am a Delaware attorney that gives up a couple of hours to take your legal questions. This is your opportunity to get the answer to that legal question that has been on your mind. Don't be shy if you have a question. I promise I will not bite. I can almost guarantee that if you have a question, somebody else has that same question, so you're helping yourself and somebody else by calling in. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. You can also watch me live on IndustryNewsOnline.com. You can submit questions electronically on that same site. That's IndustryNewsOnline.com. For your regulars out there, you know that every time I do this show, we share something called disclaimers. These disclaimers are in everybody's best interest so that there's no confusion about how we do things here on this show. Here we go.
If you ask your question to Tipping the Scales of Justice, you are not establishing an attorney-client relationship. This show is designed to be a public service where general legal questions can be answered. You may be asked specific questions so that the attorneys can better answer your question, but that does not mean they have become your attorney. Please be mindful that we are trying to get as many callers as possible, so please limit yourself to one question per call. If the attorneys don't know an answer, they aren't going to fake their way through it. The attorneys are going to tell you if they are unsure, and they are going to find the answer. As professionals, they have reference materials available, but might have to find the answers off air and then provide the information later in the show. If you hear us say that we should talk off the air, take the hint that there is something either too specific or too juicy to tie up the airwaves. They will get your contact information off air and follow up at a later date.
Okay, let's do those phone numbers and then go to the phone lines. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. You can go online to IndustryNewsOnline.com and submit questions electronically. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning, Honorable Julianne Murray. This is Grizzly.
Grizzly, hey.
I didn't call with a question. I just called to say thank you so very much for all you do for all of us here in Delaware. And Grizzly is included in that. Grizzly doesn't grovel. But when people deserve thanks and praise, I believe it is our duty to stand up and say, thank you.
Thank you, Grizzly. You also do a ton for Delaware, which I so appreciate, and so a thanks coming from you is very much appreciated. and helps on those days when the job is soul-sucking and spirit-crushing. So I very much appreciate the thanks very much. Okay, I don't know. All right, so yeah, all right, I'm getting the signal. That dropped off. Thank you very much, Grizzly. So phone numbers again, 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. I do not have digital questions at the moment, so we'll talk kind of about some different legal topics. And, you know, for those that, I mean, this is a law show. Sometimes we cross over into politics, but try to keep it as a law show, because I'm here as a resource if you have those questions. So to that end, another lawyer segue there. One of the things that that comes up that I have seen a lot is people don't understand when an estate has to be open, particularly in what I'm going to call the context of a married couple. If things are jointly held, you may not have to open an estate. So I'm going to put that to the side. I wrote a note to myself, estate, so I can kind of hop back to it, but it looks like I have a caller. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Julianne. It's John from Del Mar.
Hey, John. How can I help you?
I've got hopefully a simple question. I'm a trustee for an irrevocable estate that was open for my mother-in-law, and it's well over the 5-year Medicare period and all that. But my question is, if we add assets to that estate, is the entire estate then subject to the 5-year period before it's protected, or is it only what we add to it?
That's a great question. It depends. All right. So, and when we say add to the estate, we're talking about adding it to the trust, right?
To the trust. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. No. It's it's totally understandable. And so it depends on, typically the assets, any assets, are going to be potentially subject to the look back period. Give me an idea. Are we talking cash assets? Are we talking other property? What are you talking about?
We're talking about adding cash to it.
Yeah. So how do I put this? If you have a bank account for the irrevocable trust already in existence, right? And you add cash to that bank account, that may actually be a way around the 5-year look back period because the bank account was already in existence. If you are opening an account for the first time, and putting cash there, different animal.
Okay. Yeah, there is an existing bank account for that, and that's where I would be adding it.
And so one of the things that is tricky about it is, from a look back standpoint, what they ask about if the person, in this case, I think you said it's a mother-in-law, had to go onto Medicaid, and for those out there, so it's not automatic that you go. If you do not have your own assets to pay for your care, is when we start talking about this, the potential for having to go on this care. They look at any transfers that happened in the prior 5 years. Legally, they're allowed to look back the 5 years. They typically don't go 5 years. They're normally more concerned with, basically the prior year. So depending on how and where those proceeds come from could make a difference. So let me give you a for instance on that. The house, already into the irrevocable trust, you're past the 5-year look back period. If you get cash from the sale of the house, that's not going to be subject to any consideration from a Medicaid standpoint because it was already past the 5-year look, but it was what I'm going to call an exempt asset. That's not quite the right word, but you get the idea. If the cash that you're putting into the irrevocable trust bank account comes from a solely held bank account that is not part of the irrevocable trust, potentially they could say that they could consider that a transfer and be looking at the look back period. If it's coming from investments, for instance, that were already in the name of the irrevocable trust, again, that's already protected, so it wouldn't be subject to it. So it really depends on what it's coming from, and in terms of whether or not it's going to get considered or not.
Okay, so that's what I needed to know. The other and the other part of that is the all of the assets that are in the trust and that have been long past the 5-year period, that is protected anyway, whether not dependent upon whether I add anything to it.
Correct.
And that then what I add to it, whether or not that is subject to the 5-year period. The other part that's already been in there over 5 years is
100% protected. 100% protected.
Great. That's the main question that I have. I really expected that what I added into it might be subjected to it, and that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't screw up the money
look
that was already in there.
Yeah, no, and that's a good, I mean, so what you're worried about would be kind of commingling something that is, what is already in there and can be established as already being in there and past the look back period is still protected.
Perfect. That's just what I need to know, Julianne. Thank you very much, and I echo Grizzly. I appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that, John, very much. And just as a point for people who are going, what the heck are they talking about? With an irrevocable trust, you cannot be the trustee of your own irrevocable trust to have it be Medicaid compliant. So John is the trustee of his mother-in-law's trust because she can't be. And then that is one of the check boxes that has to be checked off if you're going to try and have an asset be exempt from Medicaid consideration. So we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, and some other estate stuff and whatever other legal questions you have. You are listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
I'm Keith Pettit, an assistant manager here at Southern States Milford Cooperative in Milford, Delaware. My experience with WGMD radio station, Talk of Delmarva, has been outstanding. We do our once monthly radio show here in our showroom, and we instantly see results of people coming in that day and the following day and the weeks after saying, I heard about this on WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. And not just at a close local level within a few miles, but it brings customers in from a fair distance to come and check out the products that we've talked about through the radio station advertising. But in my estimation, WGMD is the best talk radio station on Delmarva. People are in tune to hanging on every word that that station says, and that transfers to the advertisers. The people that listen to WGMD listen to our advertisements word for word, and they know what they're looking for when they come in here as a result. I just think they're phenomenal. They do a great job.
My name is Karen. My husband and I own Captain's Pizza. We have been here for over 6 years, going on 7. We only advertise with WGMD, and we love it. They really help us with anything that we need. They always have good suggestions. They help me with the commercials. Advertising has helped our business tremendously. We do get a lot of people that come in and want to know who is talking on the radio, and I'm always here, so I'm always happy to say that it's me. We participate with Delmarva Dollars. A lot of customers bring them in. We have customers that ask when they're going to have them again if they don't hear it on the radio. We We tried advertising in the newspaper and things like that, but we see more of showing with the Delmarva dollars. And the customers, they ask me, where else do we advertise? And I tell them, we only advertise with WGMD. We've been very successful with them. We get exactly what we ask for, and it's well worth the money that we invest in it.
Since 1980, WGMD Radio has been your local hometown station with everything from music to news to sports. We know a thing or two about community and longevity. The Talk of Delmarva is proud to be partnered with the White Marlin Open and congratulates them on 50 years.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray live in studio. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. You can go online to industrynewsonline.com and submit questions electronically. And notice that I'm wearing Patrick's shirt, who has actually texted me and said, "You're wearing my shirt." Hey, it's one of the perks of being married to somebody who's bigger than I am. I can wear a big shirt. Anyway, the kind of going back to what I was talking about until I have another phone call, talking about estates when you're married and or have jointly held property. So an estate only happens when you have solely held property or something that does not name a beneficiary, or debts that have to be cleared. So in a typical spousal relationship, if the house is owned jointly, if the bank accounts are owned jointly, if cars are held jointly, which a lot of times they aren't, and that can actually trigger an estate, when your spouse dies, we file what's called a jointly held real estate affidavit that says the two owned it together, one died, now there's a sole owner, and do not have to necessarily open an estate. The trigger for opening an estate is an asset worth more than $30,000. If there is an asset that is worth less than $30,000 and no debts, we can file what's called a small estate affidavit, and that allows the spouse to sell say it's a trailer, like a boat trailer or something like that, or something for a lawnmower trailer or something like that. That small estate affidavit gives them the legal juice to be able to sell it. If there's a small bank account, something like that. What people don't realize is that debts are specific to a person. So for instance, if there are medical bills or something like that happens, so you don't have credit cards, don't have anything like that, but there are a heck of a lot of medical bills for your spouse, and then your spouse dies, if there is no estate property there to pay those bills, we can actually open an estate to show that there are no solely held assets, and those bills can be written off, sort of like a bankruptcy. So I always encourage people, once you get, I'm going to say through the shock of your spouse dying and, final arrangements and things like that, to actually consult with an attorney before you pay any bills. Because the creditors, credit card companies particularly, will be very happy to say to you, "I'm so sorry about your loss, but you're still going to pay the bill, right?" Even if you do not own or owe that money. So it's, and now morally and legally are two totally different things. So I know that there are people who are like, look, I was benefiting from the credit card, or, that those medical bills, I want to pay them because they kept my spouse alive and I got more time with my spouse. That's a totally different ball game. But in general, when the first spouse dies, not necessary to open an estate, is advisable to consult with an attorney before you start paying bills. Okay, I have a digital question that just came in from Mary, and it says, "We bought a vacant lot in Crisfield. At closing, the final statement showed we were being charged and will be charged monthly for a utility bill when there is no structure and won't be anytime soon. It's an investment." So I'm thinking the question here is, how can you be charged for a utility when there's no structure there? And it depends on what the utility is. So sometimes, for instance, sewer has already been connected to the community, and there will be a base sewer rate that is going to be charged for, for a lot, even if you don't have any use there. That's what I'm guessing, is that it's something like that, where it's, and not knowing a vacant lot in Crisfield, I mean, it could be in a community. If it's kind of out on its own, I don't know why there would be a monthly charge for a utility bill. But within a development, I could see where there could be, for instance, as I said, sewer, not septic, sewer, or some sort of water hookup, that there is a base rate or something like that. That could possibly do that. Okay. Phone numbers again, 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. IndustryNewsOnline.com. This is, I have a question here that says the closest primary race was within the threshold of a recount. Overnight, they found one more vote. Was this a coincidence? It's a great question, and I'm glad that somebody asked this, because it's, okay, Walt asked this. Thank you, Walt. Here, all right, so here's what happened, and I'm actually Brian Shoup has done the right thing here as far as I'm concerned, and that is that with the night on election night, this is in the 36th representative district. Brian Shoup and Patrick Smith. Very close election, that at the close of the polls in the unofficial results, there was an 11 vote difference between the two candidates, with Brian Shoup being the victor. Under Delaware law, there is a, quote, automatic recount if the differential is 0.5% of the total votes cast in that particular election. At 11 votes, that triggered the automatic recount. Okay. Overnight in the morning, when we got up, the official results had an additional ballot under the absentee that made the vote differential 12 votes. The 12 vote difference actually took it outside of the 0.5 threshold. So Patrick Smith and his and people who were helping him, attorney and other helpful people, filed something with the Board of Canvass saying, look, this extra vote showed up. It is still so darn close in terms of so the differential with the number, I think it was 2302, made 11.51 the differential. And, the Department of Elections took the position that at 12 votes, that is more than the 11.51 and therefore does not trigger it. So they sent something to the Board of Canvass. The Board of Canvass does not meet related to a primary. It's only to the general election. So at the certification on Thursday, when it became apparent that the Board of Elections, Anthony Albans did send a letter to my understanding to Patrick Smith saying, no, we're not going to do a voluntary recount here. It's outside. Once Brian Shoup found out about that, he under Delaware law, a legislator can ask for an audit. So can the Attorney General, so can the governor and the lieutenant governor. So Brian Shoup, as a sitting legislator, actually said, let's do the audit, and said, that transparency is important. I so applaud it, because, without any, not even knowing what, and not even saying that there's something improper there, it just doesn't sit well with people that when you go to bed, there's going to be an automatic recount because there was 11. And when you wake up, there's not going to be an automatic recount because there's 12. And and again, there's not saying there was anything untoward here. The Department of Elections, does continue to count. And as far as absentee votes go, they have to be received at the Department of Elections by 8 p.m. at the close of the polls. So, it is, I'm going to use the word conceivable, that, a whole lot happens in those first couple of hours, from 8 to 10. What happened with that, I do not know the answer, but last I saw, was that, Brian Shoup had publicly said, I'm a legislator, I'm requesting the audit. I'm going to use the word assuming, might be dangerous, that the Department of Elections is going to get on this quickly, and there will be an audit of the ballots to make sure that the count is accurate. And I think that is the right thing to do, because it just gives too much. I was emailing or texting with somebody else and said, even if nothing happened, there's a dangerous kind of narrative that's starting to cook that it doesn't look right. And so, nipping that in the bud, going ahead, looking at those. I mean, I think there were like 70 some absentee ballots total, looking at those and making sure that everything was done properly is the right way to go. It's going to give a lot more confidence to people, because if people do not believe that their votes being counted properly, they don't show up, and we can't have that. So you are listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the Talk of Delmarva.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Hutton from Rehoboth Beach Running Company. We've been in this location for about 8 years, and we've been in business for about 16 years. We're pretty much busy every day, all year round now. Since we've been advertising with the Talk of Delmarva, everywhere we go, people seem to know about us. I like working with other small businesses. We work with a lot of small businesses, and advertising is no different. And we like for people to come in and actually see our store. Yeah. So when people from the Talk of Delmarva have seen our store, they understand it better. Some of their other customers shop at our store, and it's really a small town kind of life. And people shop local, advertise local, listen to the local radio. It all kind of comes full circle. So how has the marketing department helped us? Well, I love that she's always looking ahead at the calendar, because as a small business person, I'm very busy and I'm kind of thinking of last minute things. And so Laura's always ready for the sidewalk sale. She knows it's a big deal for us. And so you want to get the word out a little bit early. And the sidewalk sale this year was better than ever. And I think it's in great part to Laura's planning and the commercials, so people know that the whole town is having a sidewalk sale and that we have big sales at that time of year. I didn't really know what to expect in the beginning, because I didn't know whether she'd know our business. I don't know if she would know runners and but she listens very carefully, and she researches, and she really tries to gear our ads towards our business, and she does an excellent job. I think people really more now than ever want to shop local. I think people want to support local businesses and help the community. And so when people know that we are a small business that meets their needs, they'd rather shop here than go online or some other way. So I think people really want to help themselves and help the community. We have attracted our ideal customer at the Talk of Delmarva. We service people from, 12 years old or even younger to 95-year-olds. So yeah, I think our ads are doing a great job of bringing customers to us. The Talk of Delmarva advertising has helped with our marathon also. So I organized the Rehoboth Marathon and Half Marathon in December, and we sell out earlier and earlier every year. And I think that's due in part to advertising with the Talk of Delmarva. The people know that we have a running store and that we also have this big race at a great time of year, and people sign up earlier and earlier every year. I really do believe that the return on investment is huge. I think we definitely got return on our investment quickly. Every dollar spent was well worth it. I would highly recommend for other businesses to advertise on the Talk of Delmarva. It's been a great experience for us. It's been very worthwhile, and I would highly recommend it to other businesses.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great, and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
Then click on 92.7 or 98.5. Then enjoy your favorite shows from the talk of Delmarva.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray live in studio, here to take your legal questions for the next hour and a half. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. Let's get some phone calls. I know it's a beautiful day out, but if I'm inside, come on, people. It's going to be a long hour and a half, and you're going to hear a whole lot of my voice over the next hour and a half. I do have a digital question here from Michelle in Seaford that says, now that Trump has declined another debate, is there a better chance he will have a rally in lower, slower Delaware? No. Don't I wish? And it is, I certainly thought that, as his criminal cases, I'm going to use the word sort of leveled out and he wasn't going to be tied up in courtrooms, that we stood a better chance. But the reality is that once Joe Biden wasn't at the top of the ticket anymore, the ego pitch that I had been making to Trump and his team that he needed to come take a stand here became less of a pitch, unfortunately. And, which is unfortunate. I mean, God knows, and I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me, saying, you need to talk him into doing a rally. Like I haven't been trying for over a year from the minute I became the chair of the Delaware Republican Party, and he called me and left me a voicemail congratulating me. I was talking to his team about getting him here to Delaware. We're just, unfortunately, although even with Harris at the top of the ticket, I still think we can deliver Delaware. We are going to do everything we can to, have a Republican revolution at the polls on November 5th. I just don't know that, he is focused on those battleground states. That it stinks that we're not a battleground state, but unfortunately the presidential election really does come down to 6 or 7 states, and that's where they're putting their time and effort. I will continue to push just because I like the optics of coming here. I mean, Kamala's headquarters are here in Wilmington, and still. And so, certainly I would love for him to come here. But even if he came to Delaware, I highly doubt it would be to Sussex County. He would come in. We have a spot up in Newcastle County where we could put him. And just from a convenience standpoint with his plane and everything, it would be better for him to fly in up north. So we will continue to push and give him talking points that would get him to come to Delaware. Another question from John and Lewis that says, I heard Trump will be removing taxes from overtime. How long before Harris adds that to her campaign? A few days. There is no doubt about it. I don't think she has an original idea yet. And it is an interesting, I get what, it's an interesting concept, and I do believe that when Trump makes a pitch like this, they have done the economic analysis enough to understand where they would make up for any tax loss that from, in this case, tips or overtime. The fact of the matter is we do not have an income problem. We have a spending problem. And, it is possible to, within the state and federally, to actually back off on spending so that it matches what your income is. We as regular people have to do that. You can't spend more than you have, not for very long. And I'm sure that, but no, there is no doubt that there will be a Harris ad out within a week saying, oh, let's get rid of taxes on overtime, trying to, claim that it was her idea. I did find it interesting. I saw something with Trump yesterday that now on the backdrop behind him, it says no taxes on tips. I think it's hilarious how they're trying, they're just kind of making sure that people go, okay, maybe that was, he thought of it first. The other thing that I thought was interesting this week, and kind of going back to the prior question about no additional debates, is, and I had somebody ask me the other day, how do we quote unquote defend Trump not doing another debate? And my response to that is he's done two in incredibly hostile networks. CNN at least did a decent job of being neutral. I think everybody, including Trump, would say that. Now, was there a purpose for that? Were they trying to get rid of Biden? Yep, I absolutely think that they were, and it worked. But, ABC, it was 3-1. It was not neutral. I know, believe me, again, people have sent me messages saying, Trump should have not taken the bait, shouldn't have ever taken the debate, shouldn't have taken the bait, all of those things. And it's, all true. But at the end of the day, I don't think that it moved the needle. I mean, people can see what happened, that it was, Kamala cannot string two sentences together. She was so polished, that's in quotation marks, and ready. She had those questions. Her campaign either gave the questions to ABC, her sorority sister, or, vice versa. But there's no way that those were surprises. It was way too scripted, and Americans are smart. They can see this. Again, she did an interview, I think it was yesterday. It's the first one that she's done all by herself. And she was terrible. It was, it's word salad. So, there's not an upside at this point for Trump unless it's on a friendly network to us. And if that happens, she'll never agree to it. So at this point, he is better off continuing doing what he's doing with his rallies and answering his questions and doing stuff and just calling it a day. So that answers that question, John. Tom, Bridgeville, the turnout for the primaries was pitiful. How do we get people to vote, let alone vote early? Okay, I've got several comments on this. And number one is, so the Republican turnout statewide was about 18%. Yep, that is not a good number. Now, here's what's even more pathetic. That's higher than it typically is. You can't count 2020. 2020 was an anomaly because of vote by mail. We had 30% turnout for the primary and almost 70% turnout statewide in the general election because of vote by mail. But if you go back to 2016, 2012, and look at other presidential primary years, even though the president is not in the statewide primary in September, our norm was 15 to 16%. So we actually, went up a couple points. And, but here is the what is good inside those numbers. Inside those numbers, about a quarter of Republican turnout was early voting. I'm super happy about that. And we are going to continue to push and hammer for people to vote early. Pat and I voted early. I'm telling everybody, just go get it done. And a perfect example, and we talked about it on Election Day here in Sussex County when Millville didn't open on time and people couldn't stay in order to vote because they had to go to work or they had another responsibility. If those people had voted early, there wouldn't have been the issue of Election Day issues. The other thing that was, I'm going to use the word unique to the primary that will not happen in the general, and I'm not happy about it, is that there were people who were turned away on Election Day because their party was not proper, their party wasn't correct. They had gone through the motions to make sure that they were no longer unaffiliated, that they were affiliated with either the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. And when they went to go vote, they were told they're not, for whatever reason. If those people had gone early, there may have been an opportunity to get some of that fixed. So in terms of how we get people to vote, I can tell you that as a party chair, I'm not spending 5 cents on what are called high propensity voters. People who typically vote every time, go vote. That's what you do. I have to focus on low propensity voters and we all have to focus on low propensity voters. People who only vote in presidential elections, people who haven't voted in 10 years, 15 years. How do we get those people engaged? We have to make it meaningful. We have to talk about the fact that we are at a crossroads in our state and in our nation that is truly kind of the soul of who we are. In this state, Matt Meyer winning that primary, he is not good for Delaware. And I'm not saying that just because, I'm the Republican Party chair. He is not a capitalist. He is for big government. There's a whole lot of things that are not good. I mean, he actually said at the JCC debate that, is not owned by special interests when $1 million of his money, he spent $3 million for 40,000 votes, everybody. $3 million for 40,000 votes. Bethany Hall Long spent almost $2 million for 31,000 votes. So, I mean, people know that the governor race is important. But Matt Meyer, definitely has special interest ties, and you can actually look, and this will be coming out as we get closer to the general election. You can look at zoning decisions that were made in Newcastle County, and oh look, those people actually donated money. There's all sorts of tentacles there that are a problem for him. The other thing is there's hope, and I'm not being trite when I say that there's hope. The Republican Party is very united right now, and for lots of different reasons that that make me happy, and we are have an opportunity. The Democrats are actually still very fractured. So in a year where typically, or in general, when Democrats tend to unite after the primary, that didn't happen in this year. The hate that is being spewed between the Hall Long camp, the Colin O'Mara camp, and the Meyer camp, it is not good. And there's going to be people who are going to cross over. So we'll talk more about that. You were listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the Talk of Delmarva.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great, and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
I'm Keith Pettit, an assistant manager here at Southern States Milford Cooperative in Milford, Delaware. My experience with WGMD radio station, Talk of Delmarva, has been outstanding. We do our once monthly radio show here in our showroom, and we instantly see results of people coming in that day and the following day and the weeks after saying, I heard about this on WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. And not just at a close local level within a few miles, but it brings customers in from a fair distance to come and check out the products that we've talked about through the radio station advertising. But in my estimation, WGMD is the best talk radio station on Delmarva. People are in tune to hanging on every word that that station says, and that transfers to the advertisers. The people that listen to WGMD listen to our advertisements word for word, and they know what they're looking for when they come in here as a result. I just think they're phenomenal. They do a great job.
My name is Karen. My husband and I own Captain's Pizza. We have been here for over 6 years, going on 7. We only advertise with WGMD, and we love it. They really help us with anything that we need. They always have good suggestions. They help me with the commercials. Advertising has helped our business tremendously. We do get a lot of people that come in and want to know who is talking on the radio, and I'm always here, so I'm always happy to say that it's me. We participate with Delmarva Dollars. A lot of customers bring them in. We have customers that ask when they're going to have them again if they don't hear it on the radio. We We tried advertising in the newspaper and things like that, but we see more of showing with the Delmarva dollars. And the customers, they ask me, where else do we advertise? And I tell them, we only advertise with WGMD. We've been very successful with them. We get exactly what we ask for, and it's well worth the money that we invest in it.
Since 1980, WGMD Radio has been your local hometown station with everything from music to news to sports. We know a thing or two about community and longevity. The Talk of Delmarva is proud to be partnered with the White Marlin Open and congratulates them on 50 years.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray live in studio. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. You can also go online to industrynewsonline.com and submit questions electronically. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Lisa from Lincoln.
Hi, Lisa. How can I help you today?
So I've got a question. Hopefully I can explain it properly. I need to know how to facilitate this or if it can be done.
Okay.
So leaving my home to after my death to my two daughters to be divided equally, but it just came up that one may want to buy out the other.
Okay.
But there could be, probably would be, still money due on the property. It won't be a lot, but there could be.
Okay.
And so my question is, if one agrees, they both agree, and one wants to buy out the other at fair market value, and I'll come back to that.
Yep.
And the other one, the one who wants to purchase it, doesn't have access to all the cash. Can they secure anything from the property? How is this possibly able to be done, and what do I need to know to do it?
Okay. No, great question.
Does that make sense?
No, it does actually. And one of the things is that I think is important in a will is to put in what's called a direction to sell. And what it says is sell the house, pay off any debt, and if one of the beneficiaries wants to buy it, they can. Because if you don't put that direction to sell in, and under Delaware law, if you just say it goes to my two daughters, then they become co-owners, and no one is obligated to buy the other out. And so what happens is the one who wants the house figures it out and moves into the house and says, hey, I'm taking my 50% ownership by living here 100% of the time, and the other one doesn't get the money. So the direction to sell, even if they have kind of agreed that this is going to happen, is important to keep that on track. But when there is an outstanding mortgage, it does have to be satisfied. So, for the one who is buying it, is it possible for her to qualify for a mortgage or not possible?
Oh, absolutely. They both own their own home.
Okay.
Neither one will move into it. They don't. My one daughter would just keep it for her, either for a rental investment or possibly for her daughter.
Okay.
She just wants to keep it.
Okay.
But no, they both have their own homes.
Okay. So the one who wants it, how the math works with a direction to sell is that they actually have each a 50% interest in the equity. So if there is an outstanding mortgage, that is an estate expense that kind of comes off the top. Okay. That is not owed by either of them. It's quote unquote owed by the estate is typically how this would be considered. And then so just for the sake of argument, for easy math, because God knows I need easy math. House is worth $250,000. There's a $50,000 mortgage. There's $200,000 of equity. The daughter that is buying the house, is buying it for, is paying $100,000 for her share because she inherited the other share. Right. and then gets credit. So depending on whether there was money in the estate to pay the $50,000. If there was not money in the estate, then that has to be factored in. If she is paying $50,000, if part of her purchase price is the $50,000 to pay off the mortgage, it kind of resets the shares a little bit. But it is, if she has the ability to get a mortgage, she technically buys it from the estate, pays off the mortgage, and the estate, then the executor of the estate signs the deed to the one daughter. Even if she's the executor, she is allowed to wear more than one hat.
Okay, so she would. Okay, so she is allowed to do that.
Yep, she is.
She is the executor.
Yep, she is. And who holds her feet to the fire is her sister, because in terms of, but there's nothing, as an executor, you can be a beneficiary also. So from with a direction to sell, the executor has the legal authority to sign the deed. Without a direction to sell, both girls would have to sign the deed. It's because they inherited it under Delaware law. So the direction to sell puts the executor in that driver's seat. But so it would look funny, as, whatever her name is, executrix of the estate of you, in her capacity as the executrix is the grantor, and then her name is there as the grantee. That absolutely can happen.
Okay, so basically, let me recap. So if the house is worth $250,000 and $50,000 was owed on it, that would come off the top. It leaves $200,000. So she would buy the house for. She would take away her $100,000 and she purchased the house for $200,000.
For $100,000 because she inherited $100,000. Yep, $100,000. And, that is, and so she's purchasing for, basically she inherited $100,000 as a 50% owner, and then is paying the $100,000 to her sister. But part of that money, what changes the math a little bit is whether or not there is any other asset of the estate to pay off that $50,000. Because the 50, and if there isn't, then when she's, then the math may adjust slightly, but, so that the money is not all going to her sister. Part of it is going to have to go to the mortgage company, almost to the tune of, all right, if there's no money here to pay off the mortgage, that $50,000, then each of them inherits $100,000, but owes quote unquote $25,000 each. So it would reduce the amount that goes to the other sister.
So all that can be done with no problem under what's called direction to sell.
Correct.
Okay. No, nothing else needs to be done except that.
Correct. And so what happens is in a will, it says, I direct that any real property that is owned by me solely, you, in your name only, shall be sold, any outstanding mortgages satisfied, and the proceeds distributed as specified below, split between the girls. And this direction to sell contemplates a sale to one of the devisees, it's a fancy word for person who's getting real estate, at fair market value. Now, I wanted to come back. You said, we'll talk about fair market value. What's, your thoughts on that?
Well, I was just, the house at this moment is worth $400,000. Do I set it up to where the market is now, or do I let it go to where it could be? I just don't know how I feel about that.
It's a great question again. So typically with real estate, the value is set at the time of your death. So it is not, it's not now. It's whatever the market happens to be at the time of your death. And it is not required to establish fair market value that you that an appraisal be done. Yeah, so I mean, like the Register of Wills does not require that an appraisal be done to us. Now, is it sometimes that's the only way that there can be kind of an agreement of what the value is, but sometimes it is. You can take an average of Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com or whatever, to save the money on the appraisal potentially, but from a tax standpoint. Income tax standpoint, the basis of the value of the house resets to your date of death. So it doesn't, whatever you bought it for is no longer significant. The basis date becomes the date that you died. And so for your daughter that is buying it, she may choose to get an appraisal because it sets that value so that when she goes to sell it umpteen years down the road, it is known exactly what that basis was, but it's not required.
Gotcha. For her, that's okay.
Correct.
One more thing. What if they choose not? Can I add this in if they choose to? What if they decided that they just decided one of them doesn't want to buy it out and they choose to keep, they can sell it, split the money, or they can rent it out and split the money. I wanted all three out. I was just putting two options, but I didn't think about one of them wanting to buy it out. Can this just be set in there in case one wants to do it, or is it concrete once I put it in that they have to do it?
Great question. And if the music starts, you may have to hang on to or I can answer it at the top of the next hour. If you put a direction to sell in, that direction to sell is happening. So it takes away the ability for them to keep it. Technically.
Okay.
I know. Lots to think about. So I really appreciate the call, though, Lisa. Yeah, thanks.
Hey, thank you so much. Appreciate
you're welcome.
Your time.
No problem. You're listening to 92.7, 98.5, and that is The Talk of Delmarva.
From Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, this is WGMD Radio, giving you news 24 hours a day, local updates, the talk of Delmarva, WGMD.
An updated report. I'm Paul Stevens, Fox News. A new report detailing more failures that took place before the attempted assassination of former President Trump at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania in July. This includes a lack of communication between local police and the Secret Service.
A Secret Service investigation into former President Trump's assassination attempt reportedly found the strategy to protect him was flawed from the very beginning. The Washington Post reporting agents had talked about using heavy equipment and flags to block the line of sight between the rally stage and the building where the shooter was eventually found. But on the day of the rally, the supervisors who arrived in Butler found that cranes, trucks, and flags were not laid out in a way that would have formed some sort of visual impediment. Local police who had noticed a suspicious man were told to text a photo of him to just one Secret Service official. And agents never heard radio traffic from local police about trying to track down that man. That man ended up being the gunman.
And that's Fox's Madeline Rivera. These findings are part of a report that's expected to be released in full next week. The two NASA astronauts stranded at the International Space Station giving their first news conference since their troubled Boeing Starliner capsule returned to Earth without them on board.
Despite it all, Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore seemed happy and healthy in their first press conference since their problem-plagued space capsule, the Boeing Starliner, returned to Earth without them last week. The NASA astronauts' original 8-day mission, now a more than 8 months long stay at the International Space Station. Both astronauts told reporters they were not comfortable with some issues on their Starliner re-entry vehicle that was brought back to Earth uncrewed by NASA for safety reasons. So while it was tough for them to watch it leave without them, they say they are trained to expect the unexpected.
Fox's Chanley Painter. America's listening to Fox News.
Another update from your local news source, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva.
Delaware's coastal coastal cleanup took place earlier today at 45 sites statewide on both the ocean and bay shorelines, as well as other areas. I'm Mary Lou in the newsroom for the Talk of Delmarva. DNREC officials say over 1,000 volunteers took part in the cleanup effort, which supports Governor John Carney's Keep Delaware Litter Free initiative. It's not just for the state roadways, but for the state beaches, waterways, natural areas, and communities. A month-long cleanup began September 1st, where residents and visitors are encouraged to pick up trash on days, times, and locations of their choice throughout this month. In an effort to focus on the prevention of crashes and roadway fatalities, Maryland Governor Wes Moore has announced over $13.3 million in federal highway safety grants to organizations across Maryland. The funding will be distributed on October 1st to 87 agencies, organizations, and programs. Funds awarded this year may be used for traffic safety initiatives and are allocated based on crash data for each county or organization. The federal grants are in addition to the state-funded grants that were announced back in July. Included in the awardees, the Berlin, Fruitland, Ocean City, Ocean Pines, Princess Anne, and Salisbury Police Departments, Salisbury University Police, as well as Caroline, Somerset, Talbot, Wicomico, and Worcester County Sheriff's Offices, and Maryland State Police. The Central Virginia Boar's Head plant that was linked to a deadly listeria outbreak has now been closed indefinitely. The company announced the closure of the Jarrett plant on Friday. However, the plant has not been operational since late July. Nearly 60 people have been sickened, including 8 in Maryland. 9 people have died in this outbreak. According to the CDC, Delaware has not been affected by this outbreak. Boar's Head will also permanently discontinue its liverwurst product, which was made at the Jarrett plant. Boar's Head released an updated statement on Friday.
WGMD AccuWeather.
Partly sunny and breezy through the afternoon with clear skies and humid tonight, the low at 66. For Sunday, some fog starting off the day, but then partly sunny and breezy with a high 75 to 80. Monday, windy with intervals of clouds and sun and a high of 75 to 80. I'm Mary Lou for 92.7 and 98.5, the Talk of Delmarva.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Daytime highs approaching 82 this afternoon. Under partly cloudy skies, winds out of the east, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Tonight, lows level off around 62. Highs level off around 81 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Cloudy skies expected Monday. Daytime highs approaching 79. 77, chance of thunderstorms Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Right now, 81.
Reverse mortgage facts. Turn your home's value into cash. Proceeds are tax-free. Never have to make a monthly mortgage payment. Retain ownership of your home. Use reverse mortgage to pay off current mortgages and pay for other financial expenses. Still leave the home to your heirs, and you must be at least 62 years of age. Call Jim Fritz of All American Mortgage, serving Delaware and Maryland. To find out more, receive a personalized proposal. Call Jim 302-245-2327.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray. We are in our second hour. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. Or you can go online to industrynewsonline.com. I don't know if Lisa's still listening, but she was my caller at the top of or at the end of the last hour, where we were talking about a direction to sell, and she wanted the option to still possibly be open if her daughters decided that they wanted to rent the house. Neither of them wanted to buy the other one out, but they wanted to keep it for rental purposes. It occurred to me they could form an LLC and then sell it to the LLC. So there's a way to kind of split the baby there, where if they wanted to keep it, it's a change in ownership because it's going to an LLC. So they meet the requirement of the direction to sell. But they also then are just members of that LLC. So Lisa, I don't know if you heard that or not, but there is a way, as I was thinking about it, that you might be able to get that third option. Going to the digital questions, it says, you mentioned audits earlier. Who pays for them? We the people. And it is, and what I will say about that is that the Department of Elections saved money earlier this year in their budget when they didn't have to do a presidential primary. So it's, there is money available, but it is taxpayer funded when it's a what I'm going to call mandatory audit or an automatic recount, or in this case, because it's being properly requested by a member of the legislature, it's taxpayer funded. If it is a situation where it's not under the automatic recount, it's outside that threshold, or it's not being requested by a legislator or the AG or something like that, the candidate pays for the recount. And so a lot of times, unfortunately, it is cost prohibitive to do that. And so, which is unfortunate, because we want to make sure that counts are proper and that all of the other, those things happen. The other thing, as an aside, that was, I'm going to use the word shocking to me, about 10 years ago when I represented Lamar Gunn in Kent County, and it was on a recorder of deeds election that was very, very close, like a couple of votes close on election night. And so it fell under the automatic recount for the Board of Canvass because it was a general election. They do a recount, and in that particular case, the numbers kept changing. They did one recount, they did another recount, they did a third recount, and every time it kept changing. And then they finally, there was a court case about it, and it's because they settled it as at a tie. My point in this was that in that automatic recount, it was only of the absentee ballots. It was not, they did not recount the machine counts. Now, that was before we had the machines that we have now, where those cards are there. So, the machines before were more, I'm going to use the word purely electronic. So I really do not know whether they had the ability to recount them. But I recall that in 2014, I was shocked. It was 252 absentee votes, that from a recount standpoint, it was only those paper ballots that were recounted. So that answers that question, taxpayers. Another question was, Delaware voters could change parties on primary day. How and when can they change to another party before the general? They can't. The party affiliation does not matter for the general election. The only deadline that is out there right now, and it's an important one, is October 12th is the last day for an unregistered person to register. So for you people out there who are not currently registered to vote, get registered. This is, the election that is coming up is incredibly consequential. Obviously, I want, as the chair of the Republican Party, I want you to vote for Republican candidates. But the reality is that we need people voting. We need that engagement. I understand that people believe that their votes don't count. Ask Patrick Smith about that when there's an election, when there's a differential of 11 or 12 votes. Some of these elections, particularly in a primary, come down to a very low number. There was a school board election last year that came down to a single vote. So it's important. And in the general election, who knows what's going to happen? But what I do know is that that we need everybody to vote. Sussex County is, I'm obviously here in Sussex County and go all over the state, but Sussex County led the charge in this primary. We had, in terms of percent of population, we outvoted everybody in the state. We need to do this. Our real numbers, everybody needs to show up and vote on November 5th or in the early voting, which I believe starts October 25th. I'll look it up for sure. We will definitely be nailing that down for everybody. But, don't be afraid to take advantage of early voting. It's a machine vote. It is exactly like voting on election day. You show up, you present your ID. For those out there who, legally in Delaware, the ID, you have to prove your address. But the poll workers and polling places ask for IDs. People happily present them, and they should. There is nothing wrong with identifying who a voter is. But early voting is just like that. It's a machine vote, and they secure them every night, and then all that count comes in on election night. For those that just don't want to deal with going to a polling place, we do have absentee voting. It is excuse-based. You can do this. You can request it online. Go to ivote.de.gov, request your absentee ballot. And you can say, if you're working, that's a legit excuse. If you're on vacation, legit excuse. But do not let election day come and go without letting your voice be heard. I know that I said I do legal questions, but there were several here that kind of went political, but also allowed me also have a legal component to them. And it's just, we're at that critical time. So let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Julianne. It's Joan. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there.
Good.
Yeah, I wanted to give you a little update. Bill and I both voted early. Okay. And it felt a little uncomfortable. We're not used to, doing things that way. And I have a question for you. What legal precautions can be taken knowing anybody with a half a brain that the other side is going to try to cheat? Is there anything that Trump could do or Republican Party or the people themselves?
So there's a couple of things, and so the Trump team and the RNC, that is where the money is going. Is going into it's going into the battleground states, setting up for legal challenges. Like they are recruiting attorneys. They have attorneys on the ground. They are going to have lawsuits pre-written. Like we have a sense of what may, where some of that may happen, just based on history. Okay. Here in Delaware, so I reached out to the RNC and spoke with the election integrity, the chair there, and said, look, I need you to get me those lawsuits. I can tweak it to Delaware law, but give me the template so that we're prepared here. But our election integrity group the task force has been tremendous. We're going to do, everybody out there, we're going to do a big kind of statewide September 22nd. I'm going to call it a town hall. It's a virtual that people can sign up to. If we can get you the link. It went out in my Murray Minute. We're going to have it on the Delaware GOP, the Sussex.GOP websites. We'll have the link for you to register. Where people can ask these questions about what are we doing about election integrity, but we are heavily recruiting checker challengers. And we're going to train the checker challengers so that you know what your limits are and what you need to do. But having those eyes on the ground is going to give a warm and fuzzy to people that are worried that it's just going to get stolen. So we are very, very aware that we have to have this stuff in place so that people will feel like their vote is getting counted. 100% working on it.
Another thing, too, about Donald Trump, I'm so annoyed about the cavalier attitude concerning the almost assassination of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get these people.
Well,
even Kamala, we know where she's coming from. They don't give a darn, but there's no humanity anymore, Julianne.
There is not. The people who hate him, and and yes, there should be a much wider investigation of of what happened. And if they could just blow it off, they would. I totally, I agree with you 100%. There should be much more being put into this. But I appreciate the call, Joan, very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Take care. You are listening to 92.7, 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
I'm Keith Pettit, an assistant manager here at Southern States Milford Cooperative in Milford, Delaware. My experience with WGMD radio station, Talk of Delmarva, has been outstanding. We do our once monthly radio show here in our showroom, and we instantly see results of people coming in that day and the following day and the weeks after saying, I heard about this on WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. And not just at a close local level within a few miles, but it brings customers in from a fair distance to come and check out the products that we've talked about through the radio station advertising. But in my estimation, WGMD is the best talk radio station on Delmarva. People are in tune to hanging on every word that that station says, and that transfers to the advertisers. The people that listen to WGMD listen to our advertisements word for word, and they know what they're looking for when they come in here as a result. I just think they're phenomenal. They do a great job.
My name is Karen. My husband and I own Captain's Pizza. We have been here for over 6 years, going on 7. We only advertise with WGMD, and we love it. They really help us with anything that we need. They always have good suggestions. They help me with the commercials. Advertising has helped our business tremendously. We do get a lot of people that come in and want to know who is talking on the radio, and I'm always here, so I'm always happy to say that it's me. We participate with Delmarva Dollars. A lot of customers bring them in. We have customers that ask when they're going to have them again if they don't hear it on the radio. We tried advertising in the newspaper and things like that, but we see more of a showing with the Delmarva Dollars. And the customers, they ask me, where else do we advertise? And I tell them, we only advertise with WGMD. We've been very successful with them. We get exactly what we ask for, and it's well worth the money that we invest in it.
Since 1980, WGMD Radio has been your local hometown station with everything from music to news to sports. We know a thing or two about community and longevity. The Talk of Delmarva is proud to be partnered with the White Marlin Open and congratulates them on 50 years.
Live in studio here taking your legal questions until 2 p.m. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. You can go online to industrynewsonline.com and submit questions electronically. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Lori.
There's my girl.
How you doing, Julian?
I'm good, Lori. As soon as I talked about registration, there you are.
Yeah, you know why? Because a lot of people don't know that GOP has a person that will register them before if they don't want to go to the Department of Elections, if they don't know how to use the computer to get on there, if they need a change of address, and they just moved here.
Yep.
They don't have to go away over there. I'm right here. I'll meet them at McDonald's or wherever they want to at this point, and change them over.
Okay.
Or or register them here.
Or register them. Okay.
So things like that. People don't know that we have that a lot of times, even though I've done it since 2012. People just don't know.
Okay. So how do, I mean, I don't know that I want you giving out your phone number to the world.
No, don't do
it. So what we will do, so for those who, Lori is wonderful and has registered. I know you've kept track of how many people you registered because you gave me the number. It's amazing. Go ahead. Brag for a second. How many people have you registered?
1,800.
There we go. Which is more than a representative district in some places, or at least in a primary vote for sure. So, Lori, if somebody wants to register, and is intimidated by going to the Department of Elections or something like that, how about if I do this, Lori? If I have them I'll talk to Drew Sunderland, who's the chair of Sussex County, for those who don't know, and there may be a way, even on the Sussex.gop website, where if somebody wants, I'm going to use the word personal attention, that there's a link or some way for them to be able to connect with you.
Because I have found when, I've gone to, McDonald's or I've met somebody or something like that they'll come and they'll meet me and they'll say, can I register my daughter, or can my daughter register with you? Or, and I end up with one person, I end up with 7 people.
I recall that this happened, was it Lowe's, where you ended up with a whole family, you had 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they couldn't believe it. They said, you're allowed to do that?
Yep.
And things like that. So I pulled out the course I took and things like that. I said, yes, I can do that. They said, we never heard of where we come from. You can't register out of the back of the car.
Yep.
I said, well, you can here.
Yep. Well, and for those listening, there's nothing untoward about it. Lori actually took a course. she can do this. So what I'll do, Lori, I put a note to myself, is I'll reach out to the webmasters for Sussex GOP for sure, and see if there is, if there's a link or something, if people want to be contacted to register, and they can get you that information, and then you can reach out to them and meet them wherever.
I'll keep on going up until the 11th, of October or something like that, and then I cut it because then I get all these people that they come in too late and things like that, so I have to cut it there, and then I come back after the election again.
Yep.
I have people that holler at me, and I have people that do a lot of things to me, but I still do it. It's one of the things I can still do. Not doing as much as I used to do, but I register, and but I'm saying as far as everything else in the party, as far as setting up at the polls and stuff, I don't do that as much anymore. But I do this.
Well, and you make a difference, and I'm so thankful.
Yeah, I handle this. I learned how to do it, and the opposite party taught me how to do it because I watched them.
Mm-hmm. So,
and I was wondering how they got so many. Yeah. Now I know.
Now you know. So you are a one-woman wrecking ball in a really good way. So thank you for everything that you're doing, and and it's wonderful. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. Take care. All right. See you. Bye-bye. All right. Let's go back to those phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Good afternoon. This is Steve. I'm calling from Milford.
Hey, Steve. How can I help you?
I just have a silly question for you, but I keep getting untold numbers of amounts of text from the Democrat Party. They think my name is Syed. They think my name is Ismat. I'm constantly getting them, and what can I do to get off the rolls of these telephone terrorists?
It is super difficult, and I wish I had an easy fix for you. Because so you hit. I'm sure you're writing stop. But they come from, they're like cockroaches. They come from all different numbers, and unfortunately, you just have to keep hitting stop. It is, and I will, I'm getting them, ironically, I get the Republican ones and the Democrat ones. Somehow I ended up on the Democrat list, and I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to, as a party chair, I'm okay with it because I can kind of see what they're doing. And so I'm, but I hold a different role, obviously, than you do. But I do not know of, because the problem is there are so many different, I'm going to use the word entities that are doing this. It's not like you can go this one stop and go to, the Democrat headquarters and say, take me off your list. Within the state of Delaware, you could contact the Delaware Democrat Party and make sure that you're not on that you are put on a quote unquote a do not call list, but that will only take care of some of it. It will not take care of people because there are national groups that are doing this all over the place, and and there's just it is awful how many text messages we are all getting, again, Republican and Democrat. If I got charged by the text, I would be super angry. So
I keep getting them from candidates in all states, not even high-placed candidates, some of the lower offices.
Yeah.
And I thought somewhere along the line, somebody put my number on a phone roll for the Democrats, and I guess it's exploded, but I was hoping you'd tell me, "Oh yes, you can contact this number, and they will remove you." But
I
That's
wish.
not going to happen.
Well, all right. So
every one of them wants money too. By the way, every single one of them, and they want you to send their money by midnight because they got to beat Donald Trump at a total by midnight.
Threat to democracy.
I started to write back a couple times and said, "Oh, you need to send me money. I'm a victim of Bidenomics."
There you go.
But I thought, no, I'm just going to hit the stop and go with it from there. But it's disgusting. These people are terrorists on my telephone, and I'd love to get it stopped. It shouldn't be allowed.
The two, so the Delaware Democrat Party, you could also contact the DNC. I'm sure, go online and find a phone number for DNC, and just to make sure you're not on a list there. For this particular election, those lists have long since been sold. And even if you went to the core there, it's not going to, I wish that I could tell you, it'll immediately happen and it would stop. I can't, because we're too far into the cycle and those lists have been purchased or lent or whatever the word is. But no, I totally get it. And we are on text overload at this point.
Yes. Well, I appreciate your help. I appreciate everything you've done and are doing for the Republican Party in Delaware. Keep up the good work, and thank you so much.
You're welcome, Steve. Thank you. I appreciate that. And, for those out there, I will tell you from a fundraising standpoint, because I get Trump texts, 4 of them a day, probably, or from various, Trump things around, Trump that are raising money. The reason that we get so many of them is they do work. People either eventually just click it once and it made it all worth it, and I did that. I can tell you, it's, there's been a couple times where I'm like, I'm in the mood today, let me do this. And so it happens. It's unfortunate that we're all so inundated with it, but it does raise money. I know that people are concerned, and should be, about the money that's flowing into the Democrat side of things. Kamala has a huge war chest, but that does not make up for a bad candidate. And Jake texted me and said to make sure that the debate, the focus group, and lots has been said about Trump actually won the debate. Don't worry that Kamala, the polls, all the different stuff that's out there, she's an incredibly flawed candidate, and Trump is doing what he needs to be doing. He's getting to the American people. He's doing these rallies. So we just got to keep our foot on the gas, and we got to get people to vote. All right, you are listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Hutton from Rehoboth Beach Running Company. We've been in this location for about 8 years, and we've been in business for about 16 years. We're pretty much busy every day, all year round now. Since we've been advertising with the Talk of Delmarva, everywhere we go, people seem to know about us. I like working with other small businesses. We work with a lot of small businesses, and advertising is no different. And we like for people to come in and actually see our store. Yeah. So when people from the Talk of Delmarva have seen our store, they understand it better. Some of their other customers shop at our store, and it's really a small town kind of life. And people shop local, advertise local, listen to the local radio. It all kind of comes full circle. So how has the marketing department helped us? Well, I love that she's always looking ahead at the calendar, because as a small business person, I'm very busy and I'm kind of thinking of last minute things. And so Laura's always ready for the sidewalk sale. She knows it's a big deal for us. And so you want to get the word out a little bit early. And the sidewalk sale this year was better than ever. And I think it's in great part to Laura's planning and the commercials, so people know that the whole town is having a sidewalk sale and that we have big sales at that time of year. I didn't really know what to expect in the beginning because I didn't know whether she'd know our business. I don't know if she would know runners and all about, but she listens very carefully and she researches and she really tries to gear our ads towards our business, and she does an excellent job. I think people really more now than ever want to shop local. I think people want to support local businesses and help the community. And so when people know that we are a small business that meets their needs, they'd rather shop here than go online or some other way. So I think people really want to help themselves and help the community. We have attracted our ideal customer at the Talk of Delmarva. We service people from, 12 years old or even younger to 95-year-olds. So yeah, I think our ads are doing a great job of bringing customers to us. The Talk of Delmarva advertising has helped with our marathon also. So I organized the Rehoboth Marathon and Half Marathon in December, and we sell out earlier and earlier every year. And I think that's due in part to advertising with the Talk of Delmarva. The people know that we have a running store and that we also have this big race at a great time of year, and people sign up earlier and earlier every year. I really do believe that the return on investment is huge. I think we definitely got return on our investment quickly. Every dollar spent was well worth it. I would highly recommend for other businesses to advertise on the Talk of Delmarva. It's been a great experience for us. It's been very worthwhile, and I would highly recommend it to other businesses.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray live in studio. We have about 25 more minutes. I know it is a beautiful day out there, but you can call me from the road. Phone number 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292, or you can go online to industrynewsonline.com and look me up there. Well, you can see, but you can also submit questions electronically. So shifting gears for a second here, I actually want to talk about real estate settlements. And it's, as I've told you guys before, obviously the things that come up in my practice sometimes also give me talking points. I've done criminal defense in the background and can answer those questions too. But in terms of somebody called or left me a message about handling a real estate settlement, and a lot of people don't know that every state is different about whether an attorney has to preside over a real estate settlement or whether it can be what's called a title company. Delaware requires that an attorney preside over it. Maryland does not. Maryland, you can have what's called a title company, and you will have what's called a real estate coordinator in Maryland that can handle the settlement. In Delaware, we also have real estate coordinators, but they are, I'm going to use the word processing the file. The attorney is actually presiding over the settlement. But there's a lot of things that happen in the course of a settlement that you may or may not be aware of that I want you to understand why the attorney is in the mix. And so what happens is you get a sales contract, and the attorney represents the buyer. The seller can have their own attorney. They do not have to. The attorney that is presiding over the settlement is representing the buyer, but that does not mean that they're not looking out for the seller. And what I mean by that is, like, if there's a payoff that has to happen for that seller, the attorney is bound to do that as the escrow officer. So it's not that the seller is not taken care of, but they do not have direct representation. But there is what's called a title search that is done. And you've all heard us talk about deeds. You've heard about title insurance, title lock, all of these different things. But the title search goes back in time and tells you about previous owners and transfers in what's called the chain of title, and determines that everything was good from each transfer, so that the person who is selling it to you legally owns it to sell it to you. So let's put a pin in that, because I do see that I have a phone call, which does take a priority. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Good afternoon, Governor. Trucking curmudgeon, and calling from the road on I-5 in Bakersfield, California.
I actually thought of you when I gave the 800 number out. I'm like, I wonder where Trucker is. So how are you, man?
Yeah. Fat, dumb, and happy, my dear. Fat, Amen. Dumb, and happy.
Amen.
Hey, I think Trump had an off night. It just seemed like he was off kilter a little bit, and he missed some opportunities. I was really disappointed that he didn't tell what's her name, Horizontal Harris, there that he'd do a debate on Fox with Hannity and Levin as moderators, but and watch her turn tail and run. But I'm extremely concerned about the way this thing's going, and the cheat is in. We know that. Lori's amazing. I wish more people would do what Lori's doing. I'm on the road. I can't. I just write a check. So, but Lori's amazing. And what can the retired folks in Delmarva do to help get out the vote and anything? I mean, a lot of folks sit around and have a lot of time on their hands. It'd be really great to get a lot of volunteers out there in this home stretch.
Agreed. So so in terms of the off night, yeah, and it's I mean, I found myself. I mean, there was a lot happening on Tuesday night with primary results here in Delaware too. Going, don't rise to the bait, don't but he did, and I would agree it's an off night, but I do not think that it moved the needle very much, if at all. I really don't.
Good.
And I any of the polls, like I heard that he's down by 2 in Nevada. I don't believe it for a second. And I mean, I think that they are just making this stuff up or making sure that the polls skew the way that they want. And so to kind of calm people down, I say, look at 2016. 2016, he was down on election day. We all know what happened. Now, they learned from that. The bad guys learned from that and learned that, how to cook it. 2020, the COVID, vote by mail, all of that stuff has forever changed the election landscape for sure. But there are a lot of people that are a lot wiser than they used to be about the different shenanigans that happen. And so it's kind of like if you see something, say something wherever, whether it's an airport or somewhere else. There's a lot of that happening in the election world, and that's good. So it's it's not as open, and easy for cheating to happen. A lot more people watching and weighing in and getting involved. For people that want to help a candidate, whether it's in the state of Delaware or somewhere else, it's there are ways to do it that are not just financial. I mean, money always helps. I mean, so for me, for instance, at the party, I'm looking for money for get out the vote so that I can, I'm not helping a specific candidate. I'm helping every candidate because I'm trying to push people to
Right.
go vote for my candidates. But for people who don't have the financial means to contribute, whether it's to a party or to a candidate, there are always opportunities for whether it's phone banking, whether it's writing postcards, whether it's, I mean, there are all sorts of different ways. If you're mobile and have the ability to help put out signs, whether it's, I mean, there's always something. The important thing from my standpoint is do something. So even if it's talking about the fact that the general election that is coming is so significant, asking people wherever the heck you are you registered to vote? And if they are not, go register. Yeah, and if you're familiar, I mean, you are all over the place. I understand that, but knowing how to get people where to direct them, whether it's a website or something like that, so that they could register to vote, do it. That's, and I know that there's people who are going to say, well, how do you know whether they're going to register as a Republican or a Democrat? You don't, but what you could do is make, based on kind of where you are and the people that are around you, might be able to make a guess whether the people that you're talking to are Republican or Democrat, like-minded, not like-minded, and, and be discerning in who you're asking. But at this point, I mean, there are a lot of Democrats that are going to cross over and vote for Trump. There are. It is, yes, Kamala has put some, wind into some of the base, but the work that the Trump team did to start pulling people off of, out of the Democrat pool, they did it the right way. They did it in an issues-based way. And, and people, they're not switching back over because now it's Kamala instead of Joe. So just keep the faith.
I'm a little concerned because there's a lot of people that are based, they want to vote for her based on her plumbing, and for no other reason. And I get people that Trump rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first time around, I was a Ted Cruz supporter. I held my nose and voted for Trump, but I've never done so well in this business as when Trump was president, and I really want to go back to that. If she gets in, I'm probably going to retire, cash in my chips, and do something else because I'm done struggling under this administration and these Marxists that continually just cause problems for everybody and everything.
Agreed. And yes, you're right that there are some people that are going to vote for her because she's female. I get that. We can't do anything about that. But what we can do is make sure that we are talking about the issues and encouraging people to vote their wallets. I mean, that is, right. And people do. I mean, the it's the economy stupid thing is 100% true. And so we need to be focused on the economy and immigration are both such huge issues that if we can just get everyday Americans fired up about those two issues, we win. Period. Whether she's female or not, we will overcome whatever the female vote that she's picking up. We will overcome. I really believe that.
Well, one thing I see when I'm out and about is, the working man is for Trump. Doesn't matter what race, gender, anything. The working people are for Trump, and it's mostly management, individuals who attended institutions of higher indoctrination that are for the Marxists.
Agreed. Agreed.
Unfortunately.
But on that, the working man, working woman, the working class, so to speak, Democrat and Republican, both very much aligning with Trump.
Yes, they are.
Yep. So that's a big faction.
I'm surprised there's an awakening out there that's staggering.
Yes, there is. But very much appreciate the call. I'm looking at a clock, and I'm going to get a hand signal here in a minute.
Thank you, dear.
All right, appreciate the call. And take care, man. I know I got another caller, but hang on for me. You are listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
I'm Keith Pettit, an assistant manager here at Southern States Milford Cooperative in Milford, Delaware. My experience with WGMD radio station, Talk of Delmarva, has been outstanding. We do our once monthly radio show here in our showroom, and we instantly see results of people coming in that day and the following day and the weeks after saying, I heard about this on WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. And not just at a close local level within a few miles, but it brings customers in from a fair distance to come and check out the products that we've talked about through the radio station advertising. But in my estimation, WGMD is the best talk radio station on Delmarva. People are in tune to hanging on every word that that station says, and that transfers to the advertisers. The people that listen to WGMD listen to our advertisements word for word, and they know what they're looking for when they come in here as a result. I just think they're phenomenal. They do a great job.
My name is Karen. My husband and I own Captain's Pizza. We have been here for over 6 years, going on 7. We only advertise with WGMD, and we love it. They really help us with anything that we need. They always have good suggestions. They help me with the commercials. Advertising has helped our business tremendously. We do get a lot of people that come in and want to know who is talking on the radio, and I'm always here, so I'm always happy to say that it's me. We participate with Delmarva Dollars. A lot of customers bring them in. We have customers that ask when they're going to have them again if they don't hear it on the radio. We tried advertising in the newspaper and things like that, but we see more of a showing with the Delmarva Dollars. And the customers, they ask me, where else do we advertise? And I tell them, we only advertise with WGMD. We've been very successful with them. We get exactly what we ask for, and it's well worth the money that we invest in it.
Since 1980, WGMD Radio has been your local hometown station with everything from music to news to sports. We know a thing or two about community and longevity. The Talk of Delmarva is proud to be partnered with the White Marlin Open and congratulates them on 50 years.
800-518-9292. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name's Dawn. I'm in Lewis.
How can I help you, Dawn?
I voted early for the primary, and I noticed that at the voting site, they get your name, they get your address, they look at your driver's license. My question is, for the general election, if illegal aliens go up to the voting site, what are they going to do, or how are they going to determine that that person's an illegal?
All right. So, number one, yay, you voted early. Appreciate that. And lots of us are doing it. In terms of illegal aliens, so one of the things, I mean, if they are registered to vote, if that has happened, I don't know that that's getting caught at the general election. So what we've been doing is, making sure that there are checks in the system. And it's not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody it's perfect, because it's not. That illegal people are not getting registered in the first place. I know that so I've pushed with Commissioner Albans in terms of, because one of the concerns that people had with the automatic voter registration that came about a year ago and last summer, so people, because IDs and driver's licenses, you do not have to be a citizen to get those. Right. That was going to create a problem and possibly lead to illegals being able to, being registered to vote. But and it was fun. I actually talked about this last week about this automatic voter registration, and read the exchange that I had with the commissioner about this, because I don't want the DMV can't be the gatekeeper on this. Who's checking what's happening? Well, who's checking is the Department of Elections. They are verifying. There's databases that they're looking into, to ensure that the person is a citizen of the United States or is not on another list of non-citizens of the United States. Is it perfect? No. It is not. And the Department of Elections is not perfect, as we found out on Tuesday, when there were lots of reports of people who had changed their registration from unaffiliated to both Democrat and Republican, and when they went to go vote, they couldn't. So, I'm trying to make you feel better, but I can't tell you it's perfect. I can tell you that there's a lot of us that are watching they actually are putting out lists of who the new registered voters are. We have people that actually attend the Board of Elections meetings who are really, really on top of increases in voter registration. We're watching those numbers. We get monthly reports, and so we can see who those people are and have the ability. This is where checker challengers come in and are so critical, because a checker challenger on site on election day is allowed to challenge a person's ability to vote. So having somebody there who's challenging it. Now, if the person can then establish that they are registered, to vote, that is, that doesn't stop the person from voting. But having that person there, meaning having the checker there and people understanding that there's going to be somebody who's watching to make sure that this person is eligible to vote. In the primary, we actually had watchers at the Department of Elections when the absentee ballots were being opened that challenged some of the absentee ballots, and we won some of those challenges because we knew that the person had moved or something. It's not necessarily a citizenship issue, but the point is, we need more, but we have people that are watching and are paying attention to this.
How about the other states? Are they doing pretty much the same thing? Because license, as far as I'm concerned, a license, anybody can get a license, basically.
Sure. It depends. So some states, every state is different in terms of how their registration works and whether they have the automatic voter registration, what's required, whether IDs are required. There's a whole... I can tell you that my fellow chairs, other state chairs, we're in a group, all of us are talking about, our concerns about quote unquote illegal votes, whether that is from people who have come into the country illegally or whether it's from people that no longer live in the state that are voting and doing things like that. This is, everybody is aware of it. And it comes down to whether parties have money to do something about it or whether they have volunteers. We in Delaware are very lucky in terms of we can always use more bodies, don't get me wrong. And we're going to be pushing hard for checker challengers. It's coming soon, people. We're going to do the election integrity town hall on the 22nd. You can go to DelawareGOP.com and sign up for it, so we can answer questions about this. So anybody who is concerned about who's voting and how they're voting, we're going to be answering those questions on the 22nd at 7:30. But those checker challengers and teaching them what the rules are and what they can do is critical, because it's just having those active eyes at the polling place will curb an awful lot of shenanigans. But every state, I mean, in the battlegrounds, I can tell you there's attorneys, there's a lot of money, both sides, going into those battleground states to make sure that we've got legal voting happening.
Yep. It would be so much easier if they had some kind of, ID that was national ID, where if you were illegal, it would be impossible to get it. But
I hear you. I mean, it's but unfortunately, we're just I could give reasons that it's bad to have something nationalized like that too. I mean, I get what you're saying and why you're saying it. What I want people to take away from this is, and believe me, I have been talking about election integrity since the election of 2020. I understand how critical it is that people think that their vote is being counted and that people who are ineligible to vote are not. So, but for those out there that are saying their fix is in, there's no way to do it, I got to talk you out of that. I have to get people to show up and vote anyway. Even if you're worried about it, you show up and vote. It's your responsibility to do it. So, I mean, I very much appreciate the call. And hope that you and anybody else out there that's listening is going to be pushing people to go ahead and vote, regardless of whether you're worried about, the count. You got to make yourself be heard. Now, one other thing before I, step away, and that is that one way that I think is a way for people who are worried about their vote being counted by somebody else or being used by somebody else is to actually request an absentee ballot and don't send it back in. Take it with you, unopened, unfilled out, to the polling place when you go to vote. And if they say they're going to see that you've already requested an absentee ballot, and they're going to say you requested an absentee ballot, but it hasn't been returned yet, you're going to say, yep, it's right here. I'm going to vote in person instead. You can do that. Now, if you go to vote and they say you've already voted and you're holding the ballot, we now have a concrete problem and we have somebody withstanding. So, I mean, that is a trick that is absolutely legal and fair, is go ahead and request that absentee ballot and then go ahead and vote in person. That's a way to know your vote is your vote. Okay? I don't know if I lost. Okay, so now I've got all right. So I very much appreciate the call, Dawn. I got about a minute left. Paul in Fruitland wrote and said, Julianne, love your show. Haven't been listening the whole time. Have you put out the website, swampthevoteusa.com? People may be able to see how they can help there. Great. You are 100, and it is, the RNC has put this out, swampthevoteusa.com. They're doing this for, it is a quick connect to your state's election site, so that you can request an absentee ballot or a vote by mail if you're in a state with vote by mail. As soon as I saw it, I did it. Where it connects here in Delaware is to ivote.de.gov. At that website, you can then enter your information and request an absentee ballot. But if you can't remember ivote.de.gov, or just it sounds too government for you, and you like swampthevoteusa.com, same, it's good. Now, the good thing about the swampthevoteusa.com is you register there. So what the RNC is doing, it's smart, is they're following up. And they're saying, did you request your ballot? Have you mailed your ballot back in? It's very similar to what Turning Point is doing with the Chase the Vote. So lots of people working on this. You got to show up and vote. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in this week. You're listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the Talk of Delmarva.
Peninsula's heritage hometown station for over 40 years. WGMD, Rehoboth Beach, Ocean City. News, talk, and